Welcome back to Comedy or Worse. I'm here with a very special guest,
Jere Evens.
Yay! Oh, yeah. So how are you doing today?
I'm fine. How about you?
Pretty good.
Yeah, good.
So do you use a stage name?
Jere Evens.
Well, there you
That's
go.
my maiden name, my real name.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going through a divorce, but I've always used my name, Evans, because I thought, you know, the guy I married, what did he do? Why should he get any fame or credit?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So how did you get into comedy?
It was about 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was watching a show on HBO, and they had 4 women comics on there.
Wow.
And 2 of them had absolutely nothing. We're getting no response, no laughing from the audience, nothing. And I said, I could do better than that. And he said, well, why don't you? All right, I will. So I started doing comedy, and I did it for like 9 years, and then I became a grandmother. And had told my daughter and son-in-law, if you give me grandkids, I will babysit them and you won't have to pay me anything. I'll help you out that way. So I quit for like, I quit for 20 years. And then I just got back into it. Going through the divorce, there was a lot of stress, and I thought, I need something to make me happy. Sure. And comedy makes me happy.
Yeah.
If I can put a smile or a joke, a laugh from somebody, put a smile on their face, and that makes me happy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So when you started doing comedy initially, did you get addicted to it right away?
Yes, I did. And then I'd been doing it for about 2 years, and I was working up in LA a lot at the Improv up there, and Mark Lano was still running the Melrose Improv. I don't know if he is still or not, and I took an advanced comedy class from him, and he told me, Jere, you should be a writer. And I said, I don't want to be a writer. I don't want to write funny stuff and have other people get famous for it. I want to do it myself. So, you know, and he helped me a lot, what he told me, and that a lot of comedians, I think, don't realize is that stand-up comedy is not about telling jokes. It's a conversation with surprises, is what it is.
Sure. You're
going this way and you make a sharp turn, and that's what brings the laughs. So, yeah. And I've taken a lot of sharp turns in my life. I'm still in the middle of one, so, but that's all right.
Yeah. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So what is your writing process for comedy?
To me, there's like 5 steps. Number 1, and for me, the hardest one is coming up with a concept. What am I going to write about? What's the topic going to be? Once I decide on a topic, that's the easy part. So there's picking the topic. There's writing a joke. There's telling a joke. And there is performing a joke, which is entirely different than telling a joke. And then 5th, having the guts to get up and do it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So are there any jokes you have right now that you're not sure if you are ready to perform it? Or
I have written a new routine that I've never performed before. In fact, I'm going to do it Friday night at Quantum Brewery.
Wow.
I'm going to get up, and it's about women getting their mammograms.
Okay.
Now, men know what a mammogram is and why women go, but they probably don't know the procedure. And what the procedure is you stand up, you're topless, and they take your boob and they pull it out and stretch it as far as they can get it, and then smash it flat with this plate.
Right.
And it's usually a male technician. So I just went for my annual mammogram. He comes over and he grabs me by the boob, and I reached down and grabbed him by the crotch, and I said, now we're not going to hurt each other, are we? Because I'll take that thing of yours and stretch it out like a necktie. It's going to be 2 feet long and 1/4 inch thick, and no woman's going to want that. Do we understand each other? Just going, so he did the mammogram. We got through. And he said, well, that wasn't so bad. And I said, compared to what? Jesus, you know. And he says, well, you know, I thought I did okay. And I said, yeah, you did. But it's just, I can't go braless anymore because it's going to thicken my waist. And I just, maybe I should go out in the street and jump with them. Oh, and by the way, thanks for the built-in garter belt. And the next time I buy a bra, I'll be looking for a size 38 long. Thank you very much. Anyway, that's just what I'm working on right now that I'll do Friday night.
Nice.
For Quantum. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So who is the funniest person in your life right now?
The funniest person in my life?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I guess that depends on what mood I'm in. You know, it's like my sisters, my two older sisters, are teasing me to death because I was married for so long and now I'm dating, and they just hassle me to death. And if I'm in an all right mood, you know, it's funny. If I'm not, it's like, stop it, leave me alone. You know, they'll come up behind me and start making kisses noises right in my ears, you know. Stop it. Did you go out on a date? Yeah. How was it? Oh, it was all right. Did you do the hokey pokey? No, I did not. Did you turn yourself around? Just stop it. No.
Oh, no. Sorry.
That's all right.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
That's a funny story.
Yeah. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not, but I got back at them one time.
Yeah.
I went to the sleaziest bar I could find and picked up on the sleaziest guy I could find from looks and introduced myself as one of my sisters and gave him her phone number. And then the next night I went to another sleazy bar and gave him the other sister's phone, or no, I didn't give him her phone number. I said, oh, I don't have a phone. I couldn't afford it, so they shut it off, but here's my address. I'll be home tomorrow after 6.
Oh my goodness.
They had no sense of humor about that little tactic I pulled on them, but payback can be a bitch. And they said, and you are one. And I told them, yeah, but this little bitch hasn't had her rabies shot, so if I was you, I'd shut up right about now. Oh, yes.
That's cool. So what was your family like growing up?
My what?
Your family life?
I come from a large family, 11 kids.
Wow.
I'm right in the middle, number 6, so I got picked on by the older set, and I picked on the younger set. My mother was a very bad alcoholic. Shouldn't have had any kids, actually, but she did. And I asked her one time after I grew up, I said, do you have 11 kids because you drink, or do you drink because you have 11 kids? And she, you shut up, get over there. And you could just walk by her chair. She'd be sitting there in her chair drunk, wouldn't even look up to see which one of us it was. And she would just reach out and grab you. All right, you're an ass. Get in the corner like one. I thought, I'm 25 years old. I said, get in the corner. Oh, all right. So you have to laugh at things like that, or you can go nuts or be depressed. So do you want to be depressed, or do you want to make it funny and laugh? I want to laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, let's see. And then, so did any of your other siblings do any kind of art?
Yes, I have an older brother, Mike Evans. Hello, Michael. Mike writes haiku poetry. He's been published in 8 countries.
Wow.
And that's his. The others, no art forms. No. So, but
Okay.
yeah.
And then what about you? Do you do any other type of art?
Not really. No. I just work. I work at the racetrack and fairgrounds, and I have fun in there. And I do my comedy, and that's about it for nowadays. But
Cool.
trying to cram everything in before I hit the finish line, because we're all headed for it, and we don't know when we're going to get there. So.
Yeah. And then, so how did you, like when you had time off of comedy, what was any kind of release that you had for like
A release?
comedy? What were you doing for fun and stuff?
Well, I mean, when I first started out, I was married, and the marriage was already in trouble, and I knew it. I should have been out of this years ago, but I thought, no, I took an oath, I took a vow, I meant what I said, and I stuck it out and stuck it out and stuck it out, and then I finally came to the point, it's not going to get any better, it's only going to get worse, and I want to enjoy whatever time I have left,
Sure.
and I want to help other people laugh. So, I don't really do much these days other than write. I write a lot. I've always got my little black book with me, and people from a distance think I'm reading the Bible, but it's my joke book, and I'm writing a lot of dirty stuff sometimes, and sometimes clean stuff. But
Okay.
yeah, there's some places you can't do dirty or suggestive stuff. Other places, if like in a bar or a nightclub, that's what they want to hear. So you have to know your audience.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So when or I guess just at whenever, did you travel to do comedy?
I was working up in LA a lot, 2 and 3 nights a week, and I was working full time, and I would go up there 2 and 3 nights a week and drive home and get home at 3:30 in the morning, and that's very dangerous, especially for a woman alone. LA is kind of like a war zone, parts of it, and then that's when I became grandmother and quit doing the comedy. But I was having fun, but it was just, I wore out a car real quick driving up there 2 and 3 times a week. And then I met other comics, and a good friend of mine, Marty, I started staying at her house. So if I was doing 2 gigs, nights back to back, I wouldn't drive home and have to drive back up the next day. So that helped me out a lot. And
So you've just always been in San Diego then?
pretty much, yeah. I'm a 3rd generation San Diegan. Grandfather was born here 1887, and the population was 4,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. His name was Ace, which I think is the coolest name. If I would have had a son, I would have named him Ace, but I have a daughter, so.
Oh yeah, that's cool. So do you ever wish that you didn't stop doing comedy?
Yes, I do, because 20 years is a long time to be off, but
Yeah.
but I'm 20 years older than I was, so I think a little different then, and I regret that the things that happened in my life that I could have written material on, but I kind of have forgotten about a lot of those and put them on the back burner. So
Yeah. And then, do you wish you just started comedy earlier?
no.
Okay.
No, because I'm kind of glad I started when I did. I could have started earlier, but at the time, like when I watched that show where the women that I said were bad and I could do better than that,
Right.
I was in a job working for AT&T that I absolutely hated it, and so much stress there, and then the marriage wasn't good, so I don't know how I would have, I would have done comedy, it would have been therapy for me, but I just had too much on my mind, so
Sure.
yeah, but
Yeah.
now I have nothing on my mind.
That's cool. So what are your goals in comedy right now?
I just got a comedy column in the Coast News,
Yeah.
and I took the article down to them yesterday, and the first one will be out this Friday, so I'm really excited about that.
Nice.
And I will be consulting with other papers to try and get more of a widespread being known, and I don't want to drive up to LA back and forth anymore. I'd love to go back and work at the Improv, but I might do that. But I just want, it'd be fun to have bigger audiences, to be more well known. My response from the audience is good, so I can And that's another difference too between clean jokes and not necessarily dirty jokes, but sexual or sensual or suggestive jokes. Okay, if you do a clean joke and it's funny, you'll get a little chuckle. If you do something that's dirty and they think it's funny, you'll get a huge laugh and sometimes a round of applause. And which would you rather have, you know?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yes.
So what is your favorite joke? It could be anybody's joke.
What comes to my mind is one that Rita Rudner did years ago. And she had just gotten married, and she said, now the pressure is on for me to have a baby. Okay. And my grandmother came up to me the other day and said, when will I be a great grandmother? And I told her, as soon as you do something extraordinary. I just think that's a great joke.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So do you have like a favorite fan interaction? Either you were a fan of somebody or someone said, oh my goodness, that was a great set.
I'm getting that more often now, and it's from other comics. Every now and then when I'm leaving the stage, somebody in the audience will stand up and stop me and give me a compliment, which is very generous on their part, and it always makes you feel better, I mean, you hear the applause when you're up there and you hear the laughter and stuff, but it's nice when they stop you and talk to you individually. At least I think it's nice.
Yeah.
And then I slap them. I say, how dare you? Oh!
You don't know me.
You keep your hands to yourself. Oh!
But then what about, I think before we started, you were talking about stories interacting with other comics, like famous comics?
I met Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
He was very ill with his MS, which eventually cost him his life.
Yeah.
And he had written a book called Prior Convictions, and he was at the Comedy Store up on Sunset Boulevard in LA, and he was going to be signing his books. So my friend Marty and I got the book, got in line. We were number 10 and 11 in line, and that was like 2 hours before he was supposed to be there. And the line was huge and long. When we got in to the store, he had a stamp about this big that said, signed by Richard Pryor at the LA Comedy Store, and the date. And he would stamp that, and then he'd put his name, Richard Pryor. He'd hand sign that. Well, us being number 10 and 11, by the time we got to him, he was so weak he couldn't even write his name anymore. He could just write his initials, and it was just R.P. And I thought, oh my God, this poor man, And I do have a picture of me standing there, him sitting down, and me standing there with my book and the emblem Comedy Store in the background, and I'll always cherish that picture. Not one of my biggest regrets in comedy, but my biggest regret in comedy, I used to work at the down at the Bahia Bell. It was called Comedy Isle, and it was run by Paul Messier. Mm-hmm. And Paul was very good to me, would put me on, and and I had been in LA, and I came home, got home about 3 a.m, checked my messages, and there was a message from Paul. Call me as soon as you can. It's important. Well, I thought, I'm not calling him at 3:30 in the morning, so I went to bed, and I called him about 10 the next morning. He said, where were you last night? And I said, I was up in LA at the Improv. And he said, Robin Williams was here, and it was a surprise, and I called you. You could have come down and met Robin. Oh. And that is one of the biggest regrets in my life, not just in comedy, but I would have loved to have met Robin Williams. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, like who thinks at 3:30 in the morning?
Yeah. Oh, he was long gone by then.
Oh, okay.
Well, what's his room number? I'll go pay him a visit. Tell people, yeah, I opened for Robin Williams. Of course, it was in the backseat of his car, but
So what's your favorite place to do comedy?
It's hard to say. I like all of them. And the bigger the audience, the better. Because if you're, or at least me, the more people that are there and the more laughs I'm getting just gives me the energy to want to go on and put more feeling into it, put a little imagination, a little, oomph into it. You can't just stand there and tell a joke, you, like I say, you've got to perform the joke. Yeah, so.
Yeah, cool. So it's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
Do you ever think about performing like American Common Company?
I'd like to. I heard that they have big audience there, but they say that you have to go in there and that most times you can't get on, and I've never been in there. I want to go in there because I want the big audience and I want to be better known, more well known.
Right.
So I did have somebody at work at the racetrack one day go, "I know you. You're that comedian." I said, "And you're that guy. I remember you. You yelled something loaded me in the audience." "And you left before I could give you my phone number. What the hell's the matter with you?" So,
Yeah, cool.
Shut up or pay up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what about like the Comedy Store? You could.
The Comedy Store is hard to get into. You have to call on Tuesday night, and then you call back like 3 hours later and see if you got on the list. And like once out of every 5 times I call, I'll get on the list. And then it's just for the open mic. And I thought, I'm beyond the open mic business as far as they're concerned. You get up and you get 3 minutes. As there's people that get up there with their book and they'll thumb through it. And I think, shouldn't you have done that before you got on the stage? Know what you're going to talk about. I'll have a note, that I take up with me, but it'll be a subject so I remember what order I'm going to do the subjects in or what subjects I'm going to do, because I've got like, about 25 minutes now of good solid material. But I want to talk to the Comedy Store and tell them, hey, I'll send you a video, whatever, but I'm beyond your 3-minute open mic night. I want to be moved up on your ladder, And I could get people in here. I could bring you customers. People want to see me all the time. But I tell them it's not worth you coming down to see me do 3 minutes at an open mic. That's not worth your time.
Right, yeah. They definitely have promoter spots.
Yeah. So the Comedy Store does?
Yeah, you should...
Go in and talk to them and...
Well, probably the best way is like, are you on Instagram or Facebook?
Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, get on Facebook and message Mike Vin that you want a promoter spot.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you can bring people.
Yeah, I will bring people. I mean, there's a lot of people that I work with that, say, we want to come and see you. And I keep telling them it's not worth 3 minutes or 5 minutes of your time to drive down there, drive back, waste the gas, waste your time. You'd be laughing your ass off in 5 minutes, but I don't want people to come in for 5 minutes. It's not,
Right.
I feel like I'm wasting their time, and I don't want to do that. So.
Sure. Well, also, I'd love to have you do more time at Quantum Brewing.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah, I'm signed up for the next 2 Friday nights. So I always like.
Are you able to ever come on Saturday? Or?
If I'm not working, I work at the racetrack, and the racetrack or the fairgrounds now have this building called the Sound, which is run by the Belly Up, and there's concerts in there, and there are usually concerts Friday and Saturday night, and sometimes during the week. So, but most always on Saturdays. So that's why I don't sign up for Saturdays. But if there's no concerts, then I do. And the fair is going to be starting up the first week of June, and I do work the day shift there, so I could still come in and do comedy, get out of there, and then go right in. And Friday night, it's an hour later. Starts at 7:30 instead of 6:30.
Right.
So 6:30 would be pushing it for me working the fair. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So what is your earliest memory?
My grandfather, Ace, died when I was a year and 3 months old, but I do have a memory of him. He had these 2 little magnets about this big, and they were little Scotty dogs, a black one and a white one, and he'd pull them out of his pocket and show them to me and put them together and pull them apart. And I have a memory of that. Another memory I have is when I was 2 years old, my brother Mike, he and I and a couple others shared a room, and my crib was right by the light switch, and he was scared to death in the dark. And he'd call me in the middle of the night, Jerry, stand up and turn the light on so I can go to the bathroom. So I'd stand up in my crib and flip the light on, and he'd get up and go pee and get back. Okay, turn it off. But I remember that, and I was 2 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. Another early memory that I have, when I was a kid, I had an ability that I wish to God I still had today. I could throw up anytime I wanted to. And my 2 older brothers would use that to their advantage. We were at a party one time, and there was this couple there. There were all these families, and they didn't like this couple. And they said, see that couple standing over there? The lady in the red dress and the guy in the white shirt? Yeah. Go over and stand by them and throw up. And try and get their shoes. And I did. And we were discussing that not long ago. And I said, do you remember when you guys? And they said, yeah, we remember, but we didn't think you would. Oh, yes, I do.
Oh, wow, they were corrupting you young.
They were, yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, do you ever do different characters on stage?
I haven't really done that. No, that's a good idea, though. I did one night. I was impersonating my mother being drunk, and I had these real thick Coke bottle glasses on, and I'm sitting there, and that is from a joke that I used to do about her, because she would get after, especially my brothers, but sometimes the girls too, stop playing with yourself. Stop that. What are you doing? If you don't stop that, you'll go blind. And she kept saying it, especially to my one brother, Wayne. Well, Wayne finally told her, she said, yeah, don't stop that, you're going to go blind. And he said, well, you should know, you're the one wearing the thick glasses. She did have these thick glasses, so I would put on the thick glasses, and I'd sit there like a cigarette in one hand and a drink in the other, and sit there. All right, you're an ass, get in the corner like one, and repeat the joke, but... And she would come after you if you did something and you ran. I ran from my mother once, and she said, all right, go ahead and run. But when it gets dark and cold, you'll come home, and I'll be waiting for you. And she was, and I never ran from her again.
So have you ever won a comedy contest or anything like that?
Yeah, years ago, it was 25 years ago, and it was outside, which working outside is harder than working in a room where it's enclosed and you've got the attention and stuff. I mean, you're outside, there's cars driving by and planes going over and stuff. And there was 4 judges, and 2 of them were judges from the Comedy Store. And I knew them a little, not a lot, because I hadn't been doing comedy that long. And before I went up, I thought, to hell with the audience, play to the judges. So I did. I got up there and played to the judges. And I got second place out of about 25 comics.
Nice.
And I got $150, which
Sure.
25 years ago was a nice chunk of money. So I took my daughter and her friends who had come to see the show. We all went out for a nice dinner.
Nice.
Yeah. I do want to say something. It's a really screwed up world that we're living in.
Yeah.
And we're the ones that screwed it up. And I believe in showing love and compassion towards other people.
Yeah.
And we're the only ones that can fix the world. And I see these people who are mean and nasty to people all the time. I thought, that's no way to go through life. And that will get you absolutely nothing. Well, it might get the shit beat out of you, but I mean, there's, nothing good can come from that.
Yeah.
So try to be compassionate to other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So how far have you gone for comedy?
How far have I gone?
Yeah,
Distance-wise?
Travel.
Mostly just up to LA, because that's where all the action is, most of the action. I have been to Palm Springs, and I did some comedy there, and where else have I been? Orange County. I used to work up in Orange County when I was working up in LA, and but I haven't actually been what they call a road comic, where you're on the road all the time. I wouldn't like that. I don't want to be that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm more of a homebody.
Sure.
Yeah. home with my body. Don't get any ideas. Don't give me any ideas.
That's fine. So what's your best booking story? Like, you got booked on the show, you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe. Or did you ever run any shows?
I never ran any shows, but I used to be in a group, and this was 25 years ago. Here in San Diego, it was 6 women comics, and we called ourselves Ladies of the Evening. And we did a lot of shows, and we did one at the Poway Center for the Performing Arts, was a sold-out show, and then we did one down at the Convention Center, and that show sold out. And I know that night was the best set I had ever done in my life.
Wow.
And it was 600 people in the audience, and I brought a room of 600 people to their feet that night.
Wow.
And I mean, I was just flying high for a week, and I still think of that. The sad thing is I can't remember the set I did, what material I did, but that doesn't make any difference, really.
Did you record it?
No. But what I want to do now is I want to find, and one thing I really enjoy about comedy is meeting other comics and hanging out with them and, having fun and meeting people as demented as I am. Sure. But when I watch other comics and they're doing their set and they're talking about a certain subject, if I think of a joke, I'll go up to them when they come off stage and tell them, hey, I thought of this joke and you can have it. And sometimes they say, I'll pay you for it. And I tell them, no, you won't. I don't want any money for that. You can just have it. But I want to work on a show. I have been a supporter of St. Jude's Children's Hospital for 30 years now. I send them a check every month. And I want to do a benefit comedy show for St. Jude's. And I just think, that just don't let the kids hear what we're saying, But I would love to do that. And, people, and comics generally, they may be rough on stage and dirty and stuff, but they're generally good people, that they would have no problem donating their time and their talents to get up and do something nice for kids with cancer. Yeah, and for kids with cancer to benefit them. I don't really know of any comic that would refuse that. But that's all in the future, so yeah.
And then what about Mic Drop? Because Mic Drop has like the Gold Room.
Yeah.
And sometimes they let comics like run their own shows.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a Saturday. Well, if you're ever off on a Saturday, there's a daytime mic on Saturday.
I heard that one has to be fairly clean, though.
No, there's a Sunday.
Oh, it's the Sunday one. The Sunday go to meeting day, you have to behave yourself. Okay.
Yeah, that's like once a month on Sunday. No, the Saturday one is not, doesn't have to be clean.
Okay, and that's usually at, I heard, like 3 o'clock or something.
Sign up at 2:30.
Yeah.
It starts at 3.
Because again, my job at the fairgrounds, usually Saturday nights I'm working for a concert and I have to be there by 5. So a lot of times I wouldn't work, but there's not concerts every Saturday, Right. Yeah, but that's something to think about too. So,
yeah, and then also, you should just also just try to contact them and send them a clip and say that
yeah, I've been.
You don't want to go. You've already,
yeah,
did comedy. And you have people that want to see you.
Yeah, I did the open mic or the mic drop comedy, I think about 3 times, and it was the open mic, and I did well. I did very well in there, and it was small audience, but I did well. And one of them I recorded and put it on Facebook, and it's about take your man to heaven, so you can imagine what that's about. But when I watch that, I think someday a hand is going to come down from the heaven above and slap me upside the head. It's going to be my, oh, Mildred, Mom heard me. So.
Yeah, that's funny. So what's the worst thing about comedy right now?
Right now, I can't think of anything bad about comedy. It's all going so well. I'm moving up the ladder. It's going fast, and I'm writing more. And the worst that can happen is you're going to bomb up there. And for me, it all depends in the mood I'm in. I have to get myself into what I call comedy mode before I go on. And if I'm not in comedy mode, it's not going to be near as good as if I am. You know, if I just stand up there and tell a joke, or again, perform the joke, is entirely different, and you get a much better response performing the joke. Yeah. So, who wrote this warp stuff? Oh, I did. I forgot. Jere, you poor misguided fool.
Yeah, that's funny. So when you're doing comedy for it, like, you got to see some people that ended up continuing with comedy. Like, who were you? Who was in your scene at the time that you saw do well?
When I was going up to LA a lot, and I saw at the Comedy Store up there on Sunset Boulevard, I saw Jim Carrey performing before he was known. And he was funny as hell. Of course, I just saw him that one time, and I didn't meet him or talk to him or any time. Jay Leno was just going, and he was sleeping in his car. You know, that's what I heard. I don't know for a fact that he was, but that's what all the other comics said. Oh yeah, he'll make it big someday, but for now he's sleeping in his car. Well, he sure showed them, didn't he?
Yeah, but that's cool that some people said that he would make it big.
Yeah. Oh. I might make it to the big time, Alcatraz. That's the family's old alma mater, you know. Well, I am an Evans.
Right.
The last piece of jewelry I got from a man was an ankle bracelet, and he was a cop. Oh, thank you very much. I'll wear it with pride.
That's funny. So, have you ever been in a car accident?
Yes. Let me think. When was the last one I was in? It's been years since I've been in a car accident. My first husband we were at the Colorado River fishing, and he got loaded, and we had a 48 Ford panel truck at the time. And he was getting more loaded, and we were supposed to leave that day, and everybody said, John, you know, lighten up, we're going home today. Oh, don't worry, Jerry's driving. You know, and I didn't do drugs or drink anything. And so we went to leave, and I started to get behind the wheel, and he says, get out, I'm driving. I said, no, you're screwed up. And he said, I'm driving. So I got in the car, and we went about 30 feet, and he drove it off the embankment. It rolled 3 times and sunk in the river with just the nose sticking out. And it was the summertime, and it was hot, and I had my window down. He jumps across my lap and out my window yelling, get out. And I thought, oh, well, thank you for your consideration. I got a big lump on the head. Maybe that's what's wrong with me today. I don't know. I got this big, huge lump on my head. But that was the last car accident I was in. So.
Dang, that's pretty serious.
Yeah. Well, it could have been much worse, but that's the only injury I had. The other couple that was with us, the woman, she got out, and she had this big treble hook stuck in her forehead. It was in there deep, and she said, oh God, I've got this hook and I can't get it out. I want this hook out. And I just put my hand on her head and went, gone. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. It was crazy. It was a crazy time. Robin Williams once said, if you remember the 60s, you weren't there. Oh, yes, I was. Oh, yes, I was. I'd kind of like to go back, actually, you know, because there wasn't all of this, the things that we're putting through today. I just told my sister, I said, well, you know, I'm going through the divorce, so half my money's gone, and then I've got a lot invested in the stock market, and the market's just dropped to almost nothing. I said, I'm going to have to buy myself some new underwear, I guess. I may have to whore myself out. She says, my cheap ones, you ain't going to get any business.
So, with 11 siblings, how many are still alive?
We have lost 4.
Oh.
We've lost
Wow.
3 sisters and a brother. My 2 oldest sisters died of cancer.
Oh,
My youngest sister, who was the baby of the family, died at 56. She had Crohn's disease really bad, and they kept telling her, you have to quit smoking, and she never did. And she would do any drug she got her hand on, all these street drugs and stuff. And it was just, it finally got her. They found her dead on the bathroom floor.
nice.
My brother, we lost due to Vietnam. He was 36 years old when he died. And he didn't die in Vietnam, but he was exposed to Agent Orange. And he got the Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it killed him. And so I wrote to the government about it, and I said, he died from being in Vietnam, being exposed to Agent Orange. Shouldn't his name be on that Vietnam wall? I think it should. Of course, I never heard a word back from him, but that still annoys me to this day. I mean, 36 years old, that's half of a life. So, and he had 2 kids, and the government never gave those kids 1 cent.
Nice.
So that is still a sore spot with me. But yeah.
Definitely.
To
Did you ever have any merch?
have what?
Like stuff to sell, like stickers or?
No, I never did any of that.
Okay.
I do that joke about the love of my life, my high school sweetheart, but I couldn't marry him because his name was Dick. Well, I can't drive around the rest of my life with a bumper sticker that says, I love Dick, you know. And I thought at one time of making stickers like that, and I thought, no, it's just going to get me in trouble, you know, and I don't need any more trouble in my life, so.
Let's see. So did you ever do improv? Or?
No, never did.
And then I know you say you don't want to be a writer, but sometimes you give other people jokes.
I do give other people jokes, but I want to be a comedian. I don't want to just write and sell my material and I have sold in the first bit of comedy that I did like 20 years ago. I used to sell jokes to other people. Now I just give them to them, you know. Yeah. And I did have a contract to write for Jay Leno when he had his own show. It was called Mad Dog Productions. And they never used any of my jokes, but what they would do, hello Jay, is they would change them around just a little bit, and then they would do my joke on the news. But, you know, so it's no longer my joke if they've changed it a bit. And that really kind of annoyed me. The Improv used to do a dirty joke calendar every year, you know, the desk one that you tear off every day. And I had like four or five of my jokes published in that. And my husband was just livid because one was about him growing up Catholic. And he hated that joke. And that's when I submitted, and they printed it and put it in the calendar. And he's... Yeah.
Wow. Let's see. So, have you thought of like writing a book or anything like that?
Actually, I am working on a book, but it doesn't have anything to do with comedy. It has to do with decorating tables and Christmas trees, and I've been working on that. But my friend Marcia tells me that I should write a book just about my family. She said, "Your family is just." I said, but there were so many of us, and what one of us didn't think of, the other one would, you know. So one day when we were living in Las Vegas for a while, and my brother would go down to the train yards all the time. He was like 12, and he'd come home greased from head to toe. My mom, where have you been? Oh, I was in the train yards, you know, and she'd beat the hell out of him and say, I told you to stay away from there. And the next day she'd tell him, you can go outside, but you are not to go to the train yards. And he'd come home about 6 hours later, covered in grease again. She said, where have you been? Oh, I was in the train yard, you know. Well, one day the sheriff came out to the house, and I hear her saying, oh, yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, okay, fine. So she shuts the door and turns around and gives us all a glare, and I thought, well, somebody's in deep trouble here. And she says, well, Wayne's in Bakersfield, she says. He caught the train and rode it to Bakersfield before they caught him. And she says, his trip there was free, but I have to pay for his return ticket. And when I get my hands on that boy.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you ever do anything like that, like hitchhike or?
I didn't. Well, I did hitchhike when I was like 12 years old. In the summertime, there was this group of 8 girls that hung around together, and we would catch the bus. And we lived in East County, out in Spring Valley area, and we'd catch the bus in the morning, and we'd go down to Mission Beach, and we'd be there all day. And we'd have money for bus fare home, but we'd spend it eating. And so we would hitchhike coming home. Well, there were 8 of us, and we'd have to split up in groups of 2 or 3. You know, we never went off with anyone alone. But that's the only hitchhiking I ever did. Yeah, so have good memories of that.
That's cool. And then you said back when you were doing comedy and you had a group of like 8 women comedians.
Yes.
Are they any of them still doing comedy? Or?
Yes, there is one who is very, very successful, Karen Rontowski. Karen, I've known for 30 years. And she wasn't our headliner. Debbie Tate was our headliner, and I have no idea where Debbie is, but I always thought Karen should be the headliner. Karen is the best, and she does this, and she's a road comic. I mean, she's all over the country, and she does this, what is it, like card reading and stuff. I forget what it's called, but she has a show. She's always got a huge audience, and she's still funny as hell. You know, and she's older. She's got gray hair now too. And
That's cool.
yeah. Karen's a good person.
Yeah. Sweet.
If I was as funny as she is, I'd really be something, and she is something.
Yeah.
She's had her name in lights on the in the Las Vegas Strip. I think when you get to that, you could. Oh, another celebrity that I've worked with, Brad Garrett, the actor, great big guy from Everybody Loves Raymond. Brad was doing a show Christmas or New Year's Eve down at Comedy Isle, and Paul Messier called me and says, "Do you want to be the MC opener?" Hell yes, I do. And when I was bringing him on stage, you had to walk down 3 steps on the side of the stage, and he put his hand out to help me down. His hand was the size of a baseball glove. He is a huge man, you know. Yeah, so that was fun meeting him.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So have you ever been on any other podcast?
No, and I didn't know what to expect, you know, so this was a total surprise, so
Okay, cool.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you ever been like on the radio or anything like
I was on the radio once, oh God, years ago, and I don't even remember what radio station I was on, but it was about a 2-minute set, and it wasn't too impressive, or I remember it more, you know, but that's the only time I ever did that, so,
Okay.
yeah. But I'd rather be on TV or video where I'm seen instead of just heard, because
Right.
it's more another thing that I think helps me out in doing comedy is I have a rubber face. I make a lot of faces,
Yeah.
and you know, that fits right in. But
Yeah, cool. Let's see. So is there any other things you want to talk about?
just in the future, I want to get more comedy columns in the newspaper, do that for a few months, and then move up to a bigger paper where I'm going to get paid for it. Because right now, I'm just offering my service to them. I took it into the Coast News and did about 1.5 minutes of material, and he said, "Fine, we'll take you, we'll give you a column." But I'd like to get into bigger papers, you know, in different parts of the country. I have a nephew that lives in Oklahoma that in a fairly small town. He's got a very successful coffee business, and I thought, well, I could maybe get a newspaper going there, and I want to move inland, like to the Poway area, to the East County area, and their little papers, and then maybe get into the regular San Diego paper. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Would you ever write articles about comedy, like advice or anything?
Yeah, I would, but and I could give advice, but what works for me may not work for another comedian.
Sure.
Now, I've never had stage fright doing comedy in my life. I got up in front of that crowd of 600 and it didn't faze me. But if I were at work or somewhere and had to give a report in front of 10 people, I'd be a nervous wreck. But for some reason with comedy, it just doesn't faze me.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, because there are some people writing articles about comedy.
Yeah.
They need more people to write articles. There's it's San Diego Comedy Scene.com.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll have to write this down when we're done here because I'll forget it,
Yeah.
I'll forget who the hell I am. But
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you're only on Facebook? Have you ever thought of getting on Instagram? Or?
I've tried to get on Instagram the other day and I couldn't get it to work, and
Okay.
I've got to get on Instagram because that's where the action is. Now, Facebook's kind of not what Instagram is. So,
Yeah.
but I have a
If you're
friend.
on Instagram, you can get on Threads also.
What's Threads? I've never heard of that.
It's a spin-off of Instagram, kind
Oh.
of like Twitter.
Okay, all right.
And
Okay,
there's also one called Blue Sky.
okay.
And yeah, I think it's a way to promote, connect with other, your fans and
Yeah,
and connect with other comics and
Yeah.
people.
yeah.
And yeah,
Okay, that's a good idea. Oh.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So how do people, if they want to find more out about you or talk to you, is there just email?
There's
or
it's Facebook. I mean, I post things on Facebook, but that's limiting me. The people that I'm friends on Facebook with. I do need to get on Instagram. I know I need to do that, but I'm not real computer savvy or phone savvy, and I just think you don't know how many times I wanted to just take my phone and throw it. I get so flustered with it, but of course I don't do that. But I did when I got switched from my old phone to an iPhone about 4 months ago. What a fiasco that was with Verizon, and I caused a big scene in there. I was just so damn livid, and the service was in my ex's name still, and they had to call him to come down and blah 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 blah. And I stormed out of there, and I called him. I said, they want you to come down here, and so I went next door to Starbucks, and I came back. That's all I needed was caffeine to calm me down, but that's what I got. And I came back in, and my ex was sitting there with a smirk on his face, and he says, what did you do? And I said, well, they said this, and they said this, and I said that. And he says, oh, God, I would have paid money to see it. I said, well, if they keep up, you are going to see it again. But I finally got my phone and got out of there. So, but I was there 5 hours.
Wow.
5 hours. And that is just ridiculous. Yeah.
So did you get detached from your ex's?
Not yet. That's still one thing that has to be changed. There's the divorce is in its final stages, but I can't. There's certain things you cannot do until it's final. I can't legally change my name back to Evans and resume my maiden name. And once the divorce is final, then I have to go to the DMV with the papers and change my name and get a new photo. And then I have to go to Social Security with the same thing. And we have to go to the banks and get his name off my account and my name off his account, which we never used each other's accounts anyway, even though our names were on both of them. So, And then I've got to run him over with my car. But I shouldn't even joke about that, because it'd be my luck he would get run over by a car and somebody would take off and they'd say, "She said it. She said she was going to do it." And there he is laying there. Is he dead? No. Well, then it wasn't me.
I think sure.
I didn't do it. I'd have run over him and backed up.
Exactly.
Oh, what's the matter? How did you get on the floor?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just, the stress from the divorce is pretty much over now. I mean, I was having really a hard time there for a while. My hair was falling out. I was throwing up. I was screaming nightmares, but that's all behind me now. That's all stuff. And that does affect your comedy. I mean, how are you? It's hard to get up and make people laugh when you are so messed up mentally and so stressed out mentally, But I did it. But it wasn't, and I know that the shows at that time were not as good as they could have been or should have been.
Sure.
Yeah, so, but
it's great to have you back in comedy.
Well, thank you. And he is not allowed to come to any of my shows.
Sure.
Yeah, and he did, one time a man either whistled at me or yelled something flirting with me, and he was in the audience. And he stood up and yelled, "That's my wife! You leave her alone! You shut up! That's my wife!" And there was no security in there. If there was security, I would have motioned him, "Get him out of here." And when we went home that night, I said, "You never come to one of my shows again. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody gives a damn who you are, okay? You want to talk, then you get up on that stage. But when I'm up there, you shut the hell up."
Right.
So, see, now you have a smile on your face, so now I'm happy.
Exactly. Yeah, I always love talking with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been great.
Yes, this was fun. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Maybe I can help you with getting on Instagram.
Yeah, that would be a good. Or if you could help, if you have me pull it all together on what's that place where they have the big audience? What's it called that we were talking about on Saturday night?
Let's see.
I can't think of the name of it now.
Oh, Tuesday night. American Comedy.
Oh, it's Tuesday night. Okay.
Yeah, tonight is American Comedy Company, and also on the Comedy Store.
Right.
I would just start calling the Comedy Store and going.
Yeah.
And then just say, if Mike Vinn is there, just talk to him in person.
What's his name?
Mike Vinn.
Mike Finn. Okay.
Vinn. V-I-N.
Vinn. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have.
He's also on Facebook.
Yeah.
You just.
I'm gonna have to contact him.
Are you part of the Facebook groups? Like the comedy Facebook groups?
No.
Yeah, you should definitely do
Okay,
that. Yeah.
that's a good idea too.
Yeah, because like Mike Vinn is on Facebook, and then you just say, I'd love to do a promoter spot.
Well, that guy that you referred me to, what's his name? Mike McCullough. Yeah, he's got me in a show. He booked me in one of his shows on May 2nd, which is a Friday night, and he's giving me like 8 minutes. And I'm thrilled, and I saw the flyer for it, and it's me and 3 guys. So I thought, okay, I'm getting like 8 minutes. That means I'm probably the opener, I'm the opener and the first one up there and the first woman, and that's fine with me. I can hold my own. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. This is fun, and I learned stuff too. So, and you learned stuff too.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't hold it against me.
All right, cool. All right, so this has been Comedy or Worse. Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.